Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bed Tech Show. We're your hosts, Ben and Ethan. We've got some exciting tech news here for you at bedtime. Thank you all for your support. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our first article. Chat GPT has released a new AI voice assistant featuring the which is inspired by Scarlett Johansson's AI character in the movie Her that was released in 2013. Initially, last year, Sam Altman reached out to Scarlett Johansson to have her voice their Sky AI in Chat GPT. However, Scarlett Johansson declined. And now that Chat GPT 4.0 has released and people have gotten the ability to use the AI demo, have realized that Sky sounds very similar to Scarlett Johansson and her voice depicted in the movie Her. There have been quite a few things that have gone on. Scarlett Johansson's attorneys have reached out to OpenAI looking for an explanation. OpenAI is denying that they used her voice. They, I guess, wheeled on stage the voice actor for Sky, and in the article it says it was kind of scary territory as for a voiceover actor. But apparently, this voiceover actor sounds very similar to Scarlett Johansson, which is really interesting.
Hmm.
Kind of seems a little fishy here. But one of the cruxes for this is with this and kind of with this legal type of battle, it's not necessarily whether OpenAI actually used Scarlett Johansson's voice or likeness. It's whether a reasonable person in the public could perceive that it is Scarlett Johansson or not. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, whether the legal battle is going to be in favor of ScarJo or not, or whether OpenAI is going to be able to get away with a fast one that they have pulled. What are your thoughts on this, Ben?
Yeah, this is really interesting. I think it's going to be difficult. Well, I'll start off by saying this. I do believe that they did not use Scarlett Johansson's voice. I believe they used an actual voice actress, but I do think there was purpose behind who they selected. And in the article, it states how Sam Altman's favorite movie is Her, and the tech in that movie is Scarlett Johansson, voiced by Scarlett Johansson. And the fact that they reached out to her and she declined, and then the fact that they apparently did some um, decent, I don't want to say study, but recruitment of voice actresses to find this particular one. So there are a lot of factors pointing to they are trying to imitate that voice, um, Scarlett Johansson's voice. I don't think it's enough to prove in court that they were purposely trying to replicate her voice. From personal experience, it sounds just like her. It sounds just like her. And I didn't notice until someone said it. I think it was Cam, our buddy, who said it.
Mm.
And as soon as he said that, I pulled it up and I was thinking to myself that I would assume this is Scarlett Johansson if I listened to this more. And so personally, I'm on Scarlett Johansson's side here, but I just don't think there's enough substantial evidence to prove that OpenAI were doing that. Excuse me. And so as a result, I think OpenAI is going to get away with it. And when I say get away with it, I mean I think they're going to be able to proceed with Sky without having any legal repercussions, serious legal repercussions. They'll probably have to defend themselves, but no verdict against them. Um, why do you think? Because right now, if I select the voice Sky, which in ChatGPT, which is supposed to be Scarlett Johansson's dupe,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
Why do you think OpenAI turned off that voice? Because when I use it, even though I've selected Sky, when I use it, it's a different voice. Why do you think they turned it off? Just legal reasons?
I think legal reasons. I'm if I were Scarlett Johansson, I would have slapped an injunction on OpenAI
Hmm.
to stop that. Just because with that, I understand why Scarlett Johansson didn't want to do this because I mean, have allowing other people to kind of manipulate your voice and do
Yeah.
whatever crazy things people do.
Yeah. The internet's wild.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Um, and so, you know, knowing that, I'm sure there's some legal reasons why they took that down.
Hmm.
Um, and it also kind of, because of that, makes me think that there is that they may have they purposefully did everything that they could to mimic or get as close to her voice as possible. And based off of like everything that learned language models can do now, it wouldn't be really hard to make a voice just based off of all of the audio clips from the movie Her
And then
to,
compile it.
yeah, and compile it to
Yeah.
create anything that they wanted. But I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen things on like TikTok and YouTube where they've made um, Donald Trump reading the Bible, and it's just the most hilarious thing. And it sounds pretty close to how he would read the Bible, um, how he would just the way he speaks from like his um,
Mannerisms and everything.
yeah, mannerisms. And so
Yeah.
I don't think it would be very hard for them to do that. And I think, them picking a voice actor that's very similar and using all the technology that they have, they could have easily they could have easily recreated ScarJo's voice for this.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think based off of that, kind of that logic, um, her legal team probably did something to cause them to remove that
Hmm.
because the likeness is just so close.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. And probably smart of OpenAI to follow through with that in case there is any kind of funny business going on in the background. Maybe they didn't use a real voice actress, but who knows? Yeah, it's a really interesting aspect. I wonder if we're going to see more of this as AI is developed. I wonder. I bet we will. I bet we'll see a lot of customization in voices and companies creating AI voices that you can leverage that sound just like celebrities. And I bet they'll have, pun names for
Mhm.
them, so that as a wink to an actor or actress or singer or whatever it might be. And so I think this will set a lot of precedents on the future and how aggressive companies will be in generating copycat AIs, whether they're voice or image or personality, whatever it might be. So,
Yeah, I agree. Um, so I think, with this kind of just opens the door for other companies that may be doing something similar. So depending on how this legal battle goes, it's going to really shape how the future is going to be.
mhm. Yep. Yep, I agree. Wild
So
stuff.
yeah, totally wild stuff.
Speaking of wild stuff, let's talk about Google's AI again.
Oh yes.
So Google is in the news once more for negative press on their AI. And if you haven't heard yet, Google's new artificial intelligence search feature is facing criticism for providing erratic, inaccurate answers. And the big, bold one on everyone's top of mind that went viral is someone asked how to make cheese on a pizza, like stay on the pizza better, stick to the pizza better. And the AI suggested using non-toxic glue to make the cheese stick to the pizza better. And there are quite a few examples. There's obviously Reddit threads going through, and I say obviously because anytime there's hype around user experience with AI, especially AR, especially AI, so many people just go to Reddit and just feed off of each other. Oh, I was searching this and I saw this and I experienced this. And these answers from Google's AI has been just wildly mocked on, or widely mocked on social media. That's what the article says. Um, some in the article notes examples we've seen are generally very uncommon queries and aren't represented in most people's experiences. This is what Google is saying in a statement to try and defend themselves. They say the vast majority of AI overviews provide high quality information with links to dig deeper on the web. Um, I don't think that's true. I think Google is trying their best to uh, save any face with their AI because this isn't the first time we've seen this. We've already talked about this multiple times, especially around their bias. And it's really interesting to see just, I don't want to say the downfall of Google, but I think we are seeing the struggles Google is having, and it's really pushing them back, either from technology progression and I shouldn't say and consumer trust and consumer reliability, and therefore consumer adoption. So, ChatGPT is just really owning the game right now when it comes to AI and reliability of answers. What are your thoughts here with Google? Do you think this really does isolate itself to unique searches? Do you think Google is just saving face? What's the impact here for Google in your opinion?
I think Google's just trying anything that they can to stay afloat and try and stay in this market. And it seems like
Hmm.
every time that they're trying, it just pushes them further and further away. I mean, every time that they release something new with their AI model, it just seems to backfire terribly.
Yeah.
And it it may be because there's so many Google users, so there's more access that they have for it
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good point.
that it comes out. Because I mean, I've seen this like a lot with Apple products too, because they sell so many iPhones, and if you have just a small percentage of um, cases where those products fail in a certain way, you're going to
Hmm.
have millions of reports, even though it's a very small percentage of what you actually sell. And maybe this is it. And because of that, everything gets publicized and brought to the face of everything. But I find it just hilarious that it they seem like really egregious things. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, the fact of suggesting glue for pizza just
Yeah.
because it was in a single Reddit thread 12 years ago or 11 years ago. I can't remember how far back, but something so far back, um, you would think that they would build in some sort of safeguards to that it would like fact check itself or something. But um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it's kind of crazy. And maybe it's just because Google has so much. I don't know if they have different data feeding into their AI or how they're feeding it, but their algorithm is obviously off because it's pulling information or misunderstanding the information it's supposed to provide to the user. Another example in this article was a reporter was asking if like different ways to cook spaghetti, gas versus electric, etc. And they asked whether they could use gasoline to cook spaghetti faster. And Google's AI responded, no, but you can use gasoline to make a spicy spaghetti dish, suggesting that gasoline would be an ingredient. And so obviously there's a misunderstanding with user to the AI. And I don't think that's based on the prompt engineering from the user. I do think that's an issue with how the AI is built.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree with that.
yeah. So it's really funny to see these results, but also a little disappointing coming from Google. I do think you make a good point. Maybe just the amount of traffic and data and information, it is causing these problems because Google has to deal with such a massive scale of data and data infrastructure to really feed the AI accurately. Whereas I don't know the details of, what's being fed into ChatGPT or other search engines that are leveraging AI, but um I mean, I can only imagine Google is beating them with the amount of data they have just because it's Google. Um and so I'm sure that's an extra layer of challenge. And also the other thing you mentioned was, how many people are using Bing versus Google in search engine? And so just the relevancy of the sheer amount of users using Google versus other search engines that have AI. We may not be hearing about them because number one, they're not Google, they're not as popular as Google. And number two, they probably aren't encountering them as much because there's not as many search queries as what's being done on Google.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really valid point you have. I'm genuinely curious to know what the margin of errors or like percentage of errors are coming out of Google versus Bing, and how that's measured, if that's even being measured. So it's difficult to compare apples to apples, but very surprising headline overall.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, I wonder what this is going to do to Google's market share. I mean, they have such a huge market share, but with this, I I wonder if this is like, because I know a lot of people, as you said, you made a good point that people's trust in Google is diminishing.
Mhm,
I mean, my trust in Google is certainly not as high as it used to be a few
mhm,
years ago, because I think there's just way too many ads. They haven't evolved in this space enough to be the best, I think. And so, yeah, I wonder how much more it's going to have to endure before, if Google will be pushed off the throne or not, as it is,
mhm.
what the
Yeah,
tipping point is. It seems like they just keep having um, downfall after downfall with these AI things, and they need to make a change.
yeah, I agree. Another item that you and I, we have our links of the articles that we share that we want to talk about, and I posted a TikTok video. It's just a snippet of an interview with Google CEO, and the interviewer was asking him about the user experience on Google. And I'm bringing it up because you touched on it. And the interviewer asked Google CEO, hey, when I search a simple search like best, I can't remember what it was. I think it was best Chromebook. The results were really poor and inaccurate. And it was first AI explaining what a Chromebook was, which is not what he's looking for. He's not looking for an explanation of a Chromebook. He's looking for the best one. Then it was probably three or four different sponsored links, which is not what he's looking for. And then Then it got to the search results, which weren't even what he was looking for. It wasn't, like top Chromebooks to purchase. It was links to companies where there's some relation to Chromebooks, but not the results he's particularly looking for. And sure, best Chromebook as a query is very general
Mhm.
and non-specific. It's a very broad query. That's fair. But I feel as though Google used to be able to identify with pretty good accuracy what you're trying to target by saying best Chromebook or best convertible or best truck, right?
Yeah.
And Google CEO pushed back and essentially said that, well, the user is getting a AI is trying to tell the user and explain to the user, hey, maybe you need a little bit more understanding of what a Chromebook is before you buy the best one. And the user, if wanted something else, maybe should have prompted or searched something. And it was really interesting to see how Google CEO pushed back. And to be honest, I don't think it was a good look. And the comments aligned with that perspective. It wasn't a good look
Yeah.
from Google CEO. Um, and I don't want to butcher his name because I'm actually haven't really heard his name be spoken. It's Sundar Pichai. But it was, yeah, as a CEO, you have to protect your brand and you have to advocate for your brand. But at the same time, if there is negative press, I personally think a CEO should be willing, or at least portraying that they're willing to listen
Mhm.
and take understanding. That's great feedback. That's a really good point. You know, this is a really interesting perspective you're showing me of searching for best Chromebook. That is something that we should probably look into at Google and really narrow down why that is or whatever it might be. Anyway, those are my thoughts. It just aligns with what you're saying that consumers are seeing Google as more of this big data tech company that doesn't is caring less and less about the user experience and caring more and more about market share, profits, and power.
Yeah. And I think, as if they continue to focus less on the user experience, um, that's that's really going to hurt them more than um, anything else. Because
Mhm.
if no one's going to it, that ad revenue is not going to mean much of anything. And so
Exactly.
I agree with you. Yeah, that is a terrible look. If you're trying to say that, well, it's the user's fault. Um, I mean, granted, it may have been, but
Sure. Sure.
that's never what you want to say on a public facing forum. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it may have been the user's fault, but okay, there's a lot of users that may be doing the exact same thing. How can we make it easier for the user to maybe understand what they're doing and maybe learn a proper way or a better way of searching? And
Hmm.
there has to be a bit of give and take, I think.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I've heard a lot of people are leveraging TikTok actually for their Google search.
Oh,
I shouldn't say Google search, but for their search. Like just people want more information from real people. I feel like TikTok is almost Reddit threads for video
mhm.
or video version of Reddit threads. I almost get that feeling, just genuine, authentic people. So interesting things to see. And, I'm sure Google is going to be very smart and strategic about how they bounce back from this. But this is another huge blow to them that I think is just really ruining the consumer's trust that Google has previously built up.
Yeah, I agree. Well, speaking of removing consumer trust, Tesla is dropping Steam support for all of their Model S and Model X's after a year of having the service. So, Tesla's reached out to all Model S and Model X buyers that they are not going to be having Steam gaming with inside their electric vehicles. This has been something that they invested heavily on, integrating it within their vehicles and having the hardware capability of this was pretty cool. However, now that they are going to be dropping this feature, and people will not be able to use their Steam library in their vehicles while they are charging anymore.
Hmm.
So I guess all of those people expecting to play Cyberpunk while you were supercharging, you will have to get a Steam Deck or some other form of mobile gaming. The Tesla is no longer the answer.
Bummer,
And I wanted
dude.
to get your opinion. I mean, we've seen Tesla removing a lot of things and making a vast amount of changes. Do you think this is a step in the right direction, or do you think this is just another thing that they're trying to put a band-aid on a more systemic problem?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Hmm. I personally think they are removing this because they just, I think this was maybe a really gimmicky feature, and maybe not gimmicky, but promotional feature that they wanted to pump out to really attract hype and attention, and then realize down the road, hey, this is a lot of lift for not a lot of value. This is really aligned with our future roadmap. This is going to dedicate a lot of calories from our teams when it really shouldn't be. And they might have seen just from their data that people don't really use Steam that much in Teslas. Maybe they do. I don't know. But I'm sure there's a few of those factors in this decision making. I don't blame Tesla for removing this because I just think it distracts from their main goal. And I don't think that uh, I can't imagine of all the Tesla users or owners that a good portion of them play games on Steam. I'd be surprised if half of the Tesla owners even know what Steam is, and so I think Tesla just realizes, why are we putting so much effort in maintaining this when there really isn't a big user base here? So let's just remove it and put our calories elsewhere. And I'm sure the economy and the Tesla sales has an influence on that. That doesn't help them with their workforce. And so I'm sure they're trying to just reallocate, trim the fat and eliminate like high calorie, low value activity and
Mhm.
features. So I don't really blame Tesla for this one. I'm not too upset about it, but I also don't own a Tesla. So maybe if I did, I'd be pissed.
Touche. Yeah, I mean, for this, you bring up some really good points. I mean, probably of all the Model S and Model X's that are out there, probably a very small amount of them are actually playing Steam games in their vehicle. So this is probably a very niche thing, and probably due to the lack of use, it seemed like a really good option to remove it. I mean,
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons that they removed the um, mobile connector from like being as a thing that came when you purchased the vehicle. Because I guess according to the data, people were never using their mobile connectors anyway. It was
Mm,
a once in a blue moon type of a thing.
yeah.
Even though I think it's a little weird to ship a vehicle without a way of charging it in the box, but I mean, that's the way Apple does it. So,
I
hey,
know, I know, I know what you want to say right now. As soon as I heard the tone, and that's the way Apple does it, I'm like, dude, I know what you want to get into. Tony Stark line. I know what you're going for.
that's the way America does it. And it's worked out pretty good so far. So,
That's a good line.
yeah, I mean, this is probably a very strategic thing for them to do that will end up being good in the long run because probably it's not a lot of people are using it. And candidly, when you're supercharging, you're not there long enough anyway to get into a video game. So I don't know, and I wouldn't go into my garage just to play a video game when I could just go to my computer.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I think I mean mobile gaming is getting bigger, and people with iPads or phones, it's just or social media. I mean, it's not a huge loss in my opinion. So
Yeah. What we need to do is we just need to have Apple allow for Windows games on their phones.
yes, hopefully that happens.
Yeah.
Microsoft's developing their own game store, or right? Aren't they developing their own game store? We talked
Yeah.
about that, I think.
Yeah. So
So
it's getting
this
closer.
summer, this summer,
Yeah. Getting closer. Maybe
yeah,
we'll to play all of the Call of Duties on the
yes,
mobile phone.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of gaming, we'd like to talk about Bungie for a
Ooh,
moment.
yeah.
Bungie had some good news this last week. They beat out a cheating software game company because they sued them and won in this lawsuit for violating Bungie's game copyrights. And so I was shocked by this, but it may be the first time a jury has decided that a cheating software violates a game company's rights or copyrights. So I was shocked to hear that. That was the first time. But essentially, a jury found on Friday that Phoenix Digital, which owns the cheat mod site Aim Junkies, is guilty of violating Bungie copyrights when it created cheats for Destiny 2. And so great news for Bungie. They're like, hey, we're beating the cheaters. Um, Apparently, the decision was to award Bungie a sum of $63,000. Not a lot of money,
A lot of
but it's a
money.
win. It's a win, right?
Yeah.
Um, anyway, Bungie in 2021, Bungie sued Aim Junkies and four defendants, and it's taken a while. Some of Bungie's complaints were Aim Junkies violated BMCA provision forbidding circumvention of copyright protection tech. Um, and that went to arbitration and saw Bungie winning $4 million. So they got a big chunk there. Um, but Aim Junkies appealed after the judge confirmed that award. That appeal is still in process, apparently. It's really interesting to see Phoenix Digital's founder, David Schaefer, kind of defend their position and then also want to appeal some of these decisions that have been made in the legal battles. And I wanted to get your perspective here. You have a pretty strong legal background, if you don't mind me saying. And so, what are your thoughts on this? Are you surprised that this happened, that Bungie won? Because it sounds like it hasn't really happened in the past. And what does this mean for the future?
Yeah, I'm super surprised about this. I mean, there were other past um, instances similar to this where like the Grand Theft Auto anti-cheat distributor was shot down, and so
Hmm.
there was already a previous precedent of this, and so a judge um, going a different way and awarding a win to Bungie for this sets a huge precedent. And that opens up a lot of doors now for other game developers to do similar things because now they have another case to argue for them for for their win. So just trying to rather than attorneys just trying to concoct something out of the blue, there's now case law behind them to back their arguments, and that gives them a little bit more standing as they're going forward through this. So I think this is huge. I'm glad that Bungie now has at least has that win behind there, and now there's that case law behind it. Regardless of the amount of money that Bungie wins, just the fact of them winning is is huge and has the potential for more down the line for any of their future titles, for other game developers with other um, cheat companies like Game Junkies, you know, this has a lot of potential and great to see. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is great for the gaming community. I don't think anyone really enjoys going up against people who leverage cheats. And I think it's a great win for Bungie. And I agree. I think setting that precedent is really good. And, it's kind of interesting to see how this resulted versus you mentioned the Grand Theft Auto case and comparing that and just seeing how things may have shifted, or maybe it's due to the facts. I'm assuming it's due to the facts and the evidence there, but um, I am when I read stuff like this, I'm always evaluating the question, where's the morality versus the law and legality? And my thought is if you create something like a game and users agree to your terms and services, is it only moral if another company creates a product explicitly to uh, break those terms and services of your product? I'm just, it's such a unique situation of game developers and uh, companies like this that create cheats for your game. That's such a unique scenario. I'm trying to think of any kind of one-to-one, apples-to-apples comparison where someone creates a product and another company creates a product to essentially exploit yours. And I don't know. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it's would be considered like a complementary product to your product. You know, for example, I build an iPad. A company is created to build iPad accessories to enhance the iPad. Is that the same comparison here? And where's the morality of uh breaking my terms and services for my product? I'm just, I don't know, man. I wonder, like, should there be laws put in place to where you can't create cheats, you can't create companies and cheats and sell them to people? I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to figure that out in my head. Have you ever thought about that? Am I going
I think
crazy here?
I think the only comparison would be like jailbreaking an iPhone.
Yeah, yeah, I did think about that. Yeah, jailbreaking an iPhone. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, Apple, you clearly have your terms and services of using it. Like you can only eat brand bars on a Tuesday if you use an iPhone. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have something like that in their terms of service that everyone's violating.
Peanut M&Ms only.
Yes.
No chocolate, no peanut butter.
So yeah, and you have to have extreme chunky peanut butter, which is just peanuts. Um, and so I think it's similar to that. Like, I mean, you've got these companies that are exploiting it, and Apple doesn't like that because then they'll issue another update, and then that previous exploit is it doesn't work anymore.
Mhm.
So with this, it becomes really weird. I mean, obviously, companies, game developers don't want anyone to mess with their code or their product, their terms of service. But there are other people that okay maybe want to mess with the terms of service, and they're willing to assume that risk and willing to play with others that are also assuming that risk. I think I think where it becomes a problem is people that in the gaming world that are assuming that risk and they come into the environment of people that are not assuming that.
Yeah.
I think that's it's like I'm okay if you cheat, but as long as you're playing with other cheaters, you stay
Yeah.
on your separate but equal. It it
Yeah.
worked out great in the past.
I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything, okay?
So I mean, yeah, we could have with this that maybe that's the way that it works out. That
Yeah.
it works out for everybody. But I guess now with this case law, um, seems to work out for Bungie. So
Yeah, I'm curious to see if other I don't think it will, but I'm curious to see if other, cheat creators and developers, like people who create wall hacks or aim bots, whatever it might be. I'm curious to see if this will slow them down, but I doubt it will.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't think it's going to.
yeah.
It's probably going to make them work harder.
Yeah, it's probably more of a better challenge. So like, oh, even better.
Mm,
Let's see what we can do here. Be more creative. I don't know. But scumbags, man.
I
That's my
know.
thought.
Guess we're going to need to get those better wall hacks.
Yeah. Yep. So
Well,
uh
speaking of wall
s-
hacks,
wall hacks, baby. Let's get into it. You want to talk about
Ecoflow.
this? Yeah,
Yeah, let's go for
Ecoflow.
it.
All right. Speaking of wall hacks, like you mentioned, literally a wall hack, I guess you could say. Ecoflow, they have a power stream. What is a power stream? Well, let me tell you. It's a $200 device that essentially hooks up your solar panels to your own personal home power grid. And it's a mini power plant essentially. And it turns on your solar panels to give your house direct power from those panels. It turns a standard power outlet into a solar power inlet. I was blown away when I saw this. I thought it was really cool, but it makes it so essentially almost anyone can create their own DIY solar power system and solar power generator. And this power stream essentially hooks up to your uh, solar panels wherever you put them. If they're on your roof, if they're in your garden, if they're on your wall or your pergola in your backyard, whatever it might be. They hook up to that, and then the power stream hooks up directly into your power outlet in your wall, and then that feeds your electricity in your house. And it's pretty insane that it does that. And then if you don't use the power that your solar generators or your solar panels are generating, the power stream can hook up to a huge EcoFlow battery and
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
push the
I think there's a
power.
better adjective.
Let me pull up the direct quote. Any solar excess not used immediately by the home can be diverted into the solar generator's big ass battery for use later. I thought that was so funny. So anyway, you can essentially store your solar power that you're not using in your home into your battery. And then from there, if you need to pull extra energy or more energy, you can pull from the battery and the solar panels into your home via the power stream plugged into your wall. Crazy. Super crazy, very user friendly. Um, I think this is really cool. The one caveat, the one caveat to this is uh it's limited to I think about 800 watts of power. Um and I don't know if that's like I don't know if that's constant flow or like on average daily or whatever it might be, but um anyway, that's the only caveat. Uh I think it's incredibly priced for that, but I wanted to get
Yeah.
your thoughts here. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts. Does this make you want to buy it? Does this give you alternatives for solar versus buying from the door-to-door solar sales guys? Uh, is this not useful? Do you think this is kind of dumb? What do you think?
I think this is great. I think this gives people another alternative. I think this gives people a cheaper way into the market of solar.
Hmm.
And you don't have to give your power back to the grid. It doesn't pay you anything for that anyway, if you're like me and got your solar last year. So um, I think this is great. And the fact that it's a kind of a do-it-yourself type of a thing, for people that are a little handy to be able to do this. And you can just use that battery that looks portable. So maybe if you were traveling on a camping trip and you needed a battery for whatever, you have that option too. Take it with you. It's not a fixture in your house, so you can take it with you when you move. I I think this is pretty cool. I did see that it was a Europe only solution for now, so I'm hoping that they bring this to the Americas so that we too can stick it to the electric company.
Yeah, I think I missed that. It's in the article, it's like the last bullet point on the breakdown between like pros and cons, the good and the bad. And it says Europe only for now. That's a really good call out. I personally think if this does come, when this does come to America, because I think it will come to the America continent, Canada, US, Mexico. Um, I think I actually might invest in this because we currently have solar panels and we have a solar system. Unfortunately, it's not enough to cover 100% of what we want for the most part. In the summers, it does cover on good days. But during fall and winter and early spring, it doesn't. And I wish I had more. And I think it's because when I bought my solar panels, they did a measurement on how much solar consumption or energy consumption I had. And I've built out my house further. For example, finished my basement, bought more utilities, did some things in my garage, etc. And so I'm using more power. And I think this would be an awesome addition to what I currently have to supplement. And then on summer days when I don't need it, I just fill up the battery, right? And then like you said, you could take this wherever you go. And I think that's awesome. So
Yeah. Um, this is awesome. If anybody does get this in America, it'd be really cool to see how it works. I'd love to see how it works firsthand. Yeah, Ben, if you do end up getting this, let us know what you think of it. And
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be kind of cool if you could like work with your existing solar array setup as well with it. So people that already have a solar solution, that this could be an add-on to what you already have.
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of panels you buy from Ecoflow. Because they have portable panels and they have mountable panels. And so I would assume I could mount some of those panels on my rooftop and then just have it flow through like my attic or whatever into the power stream, which is plugged into my wall.
Mhm.
But I agree with you. It'd be cool if I could integrate, especially from a system standpoint, everything to be seamless and together. Um, I think that'd be really sweet. But the portable panels I really love as well because I could just put those in my front yard and then put them in my backyard and then just flow them to the power stream and the battery. But
Yep.
anyway, really cool stuff here. That's sweet.
Yeah, at least you'd have enough to power your computer when you get that.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And that's the important thing.
Yes.
I don't need anything else.
Don't need anything else.
No, just my computer.
But
So
speaking of needing anything else, make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you liked our content tonight. It really helps out our channel. If you didn't like it, that other button seems to work all right too. Send this video to somebody you dislike. I'm sure they could use it. As always, ringling that dingling button so you never miss out any content as it's posted on the channel. Until next time, stay classy and have a great evening.
peace.